we go. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Given that this is a reorganization meeting of the board, it's the responsibility of the superintendent to call it to order. The next order of business is reorganization of the board. The first position that we have to consider is that of board chair. Do I hear any nominations? I don't. We'll go chairless, I guess.
I'll nominate Ann Wiggett.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that Ann Wiggett be nominated for the position of board chair. Are there other nominations? Hearing none, I move to the question. All those in favor of Ann Wiggett as board chair indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Any abstentions? Congratulations.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to have a motion to pass over the nomination for vice chair.
I'll make a motion that we pass over nominating the vice chair at this time.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Okay, public input. Lance?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. So I just got this nice sheet here,
Mm-hmm.
and it answers one of my original questions in past meeting. And so this had to do with administrators' children and the benefit of the free childcare. So I was told previously that they did not receive this benefit, correct? At a previous meeting.
That was my understanding at that time.
Okay.
The
So-
benefit.
It has been corrected.
Okay, so this is the corrected.
Yes.
Okay, now under the teachers, it says it's a contractual benefit.
Yes.
And that's very easy to understand. As far as the administrator's children, it doesn't say contractual there. So could you tell me that process, how that works?
To be candid with you, Lance, we are investigating. I'm trying to chase this back to its origins. We've had practices, and how we have gotten those practices has been something of a mystery. So in my conversation with particularly Al Smith, who is the director of the CTC Teacher Education Program, the whole CTC, but the education strand. We are looking at, first of all, how the child care came into being. This was prior to it being a preschool. Then looking at changes that were made by the state 2 years ago, 2014, in its emphasis on preparing licensed educators as opposed to preschool care providers or daycare providers. And there are many unanswered questions that have emerged here in my digging into this. How decisions are made, who draws up criteria, how this is administered, what sort of administrative oversight occurs. And it's not clear. And this is a very preliminary look at it. The state has shifted its funding requirements from providing high school students with a look at young children and preparing people to be qualified daycare providers to encouraging them and promoting licensed educators as the direction to go. So, on the one hand, I've answered a couple of your questions. On the other hand, I've just found out more questions to seek answers to.
Okay. I guess the reason I asked that is I have a feeling that under that, you have other district employees with a 10% discount. And I think I've probably expressed this to you before, but I think those employees, say your janitors, your lunch ladies, there's a lot of people that make, say, $10 an hour, $15,000 a year. And I really feel strongly that they would benefit more from the no charge than someone at an administrator's salary. So I think when you do find out that process, how they are getting that, I think it would be beneficial to let the other employees know that process so they can follow those same steps that the administrators are following so they can receive the same benefit.
I agree with you, Lance. And just as important in my mind is looking at the other residents of Littleton who may have a need for childcare, and to look at ways in which we could possibly either expand the childcare program, fold it into the planning for the new Lakeway School, because an early childhood center would be an appropriate program there. We have the potential of doubling the number of students we have if we look at the space that we currently have. What would that take? What would that take in terms of building modifications, in terms of additional personnel? What kind of revenue could it generate? Really, I think we need to take a comprehensive look going forward.
So there's no special application that they're filling out, the administrators.
No, there is no special. It's just
we're not going to charge you, and
I don't know who made that decision and when it was made.
We are going to charge someone else. So
Yeah, I don't know, Lance, when that decision was made, who made it, under what circumstances.
Okay.
So we've got to dig back in minutes and records to find out. But it certainly is something that I think the board and the district need to really examine, see if we are really serving the needs of the kids of Littleton.
And is this on your agenda more for tonight? Is that why you passed this out?
Yes, it's part of my report.
Great. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Lance.
Thank you.
May I ask a question? Will you be going over this report when it's on the agenda, David?
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any further public input? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the March 21st minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Review of manifest, I think, are going around. That's it, I think, from you?
Yes.
Well, you're all set? Yes. Okay. Superintendent search. The superintendent committee is meeting on April 15th to discuss some resumes. That's all I can say at this point. Principal search committee. David?
Principal Search Committee met, made a unanimous recommendation to me. 3 members of the committee are here and willing to meet with the board, I think in non-public session, to discuss their deliberations and for the board to hear my recommendation for appointment, Lakeway Principal.
Okay. Now early childhood education's back on there.
Okay. This is I compiled with the help of the Director of Special Services, the Director of the CTC Center, the lead teacher of the Teacher education program. I'll just walk you through it. It was interesting to know that we have a lot of space in the center. However, the regulations require that there be separate rooms for the separate programs. Typically, 3-year-old programs are separate from 4-year-old programs. And therefore, because we have only one room, we can accommodate 24 children. So that is the maximum cap.
How many do we have now, David?
Right now, we have 17 children.
17.
Yes. We started off the year with 19. 2 students transferred out, or their families took them out.
Okay.
So right now, we have 17.
When did they leave?
They left in the late fall.
Okay.
Staffing is determined also by regulation. The regulations governing child care centers are determined by Health and Human Services, not the Education Department. We need an associate teacher, paraprofessional, and 1 child care assistant, paraprofessional. The credentialing is awarded by the Department of Health and Human Services, and both of our paraprofessionals have certification by DHHS. Both paraprofessionals are credentialed, one at level 2 and one at level 3. Both of our providers have Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science in different fields. The CTC teacher does not count towards our staffing for the center itself. The CTC teacher is the primary contact for Little Leopards, and they usually provide 18 to 22 slots, with the understanding that if special needs children move in or require space during the year, that we would have space for them. Typically, they provide 10 slots for 3-year-olds and 12 for 4-year-olds, and up to 4 places for special education preschoolers. We're required through early identification to provide an integrated preschool setting for children on IEPs. This year, the initial enrollment was 19. 2 children moved. Current enrollment is 17. Of the 17, 4 are on IEPs. 1 is on an RTI, or response to intervention for speech articulation. 6 are children of teachers or administrators. 3 are other district employee children, and 2 are on scholarships. And what is not clear to me is how the scholarships are determined and awarded. So that is an area that I know that administration will have to look into. There are 36 children on the waiting list. The waiting list is accessed by people, largely employees, who fill out a form and ask to go on the waiting list. I do not believe, I've not seen that the waiting list has been advertised to the community. So that, again, requires a follow-up. Then in May, the staff meets and determines the enrollment for the subsequent year, and they send enrollment letters to the families who are next on the list and qualify for September enrollment. Children must be 3 by October 1st or 4 for October 1st. The 3-year-olds qualify for, what is it called? No, let me just look at my notes here. They qualify for preschool enrollment, and the 4-year-olds qualify for pre-kindergarten enrollment.
Did you find, David, that there was any preference in the waiting list given to Littleton residents?
No, there's no preference. It's first come, first served. Tuition rates for 5 mornings a week is 5 mornings is $80 a week, 4 $65, 3 are $50, and afternoons are $5 a day. The afternoon care goes from 12 to 2:30. The regular day, mornings only, goes from 8 to 12. The charges are only for the days that the school district is in session. Special education students, those on IEPs, there's no charge to the parents. Scholarship students, there is no charge for morning sessions only. If the parents choose to enroll them in the afternoon session, the afternoon $5 a day charge would accrue to that.
And I heard you say that you are going to get clarification on what constitutes a scholarship?
Yes.
Okay.
Administrators' children, no charge. Other district employees, a 10% discount. Other children, full price. Hours, mornings, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Full day, 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. People can opt for early care from 45 minutes before the opening of school from 7:15 to 8, and extended day, which is at the end, a half hour until 3 p.m.
Is the early care and the extended day open to everyone who uses the center?
It is, and I'm not sure about whether there's a cost attached.
That would be good to know.
Yep.
Can I just say something? I think there's a limit on the morning one, the early arrival.
7:15?
I think they limit to a certain amount of students because there's maybe only one staff, maybe one of the parents gets in there early.
I wouldn't be surprised, but
Yeah.
I did not dig into that
Yeah.
part of it. I did note in the collective bargaining agreement that the clause that covers this speaks to daycare, does not speak to preschool. And I think that we will, of necessity, have to look at when the change from daycare to preschool programs occurred. I understand that this was first bargained about 25 years ago.
Yeah, I wondered when it started.
So
Okay.
it's
been bargained a long time ago.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
And so I think that the board really needs to examine what its
Absolutely.
philosophy is, what its audience is, and look at it beyond it being an employee benefit to perhaps expanding it to a service for the children of Littleton much more inclusively. It was brought up to my attention that today that we have class sizes on the order of 50 to 70 kids, and if we could accommodate 40, we would be accommodating between 1/3, arguably 1/2 of the kids that are in this age, potentially in the age cohort. When I say that, understanding that we're providing 3-year-old and 4-year-old service, so it's not a single age group. But this is a start. My conversation with Mr. Smith this morning, looking to the future, looking at changes in the CTC regulations at the state level, really changes the complexion of the emphasis on early childhood care. So it's, we really do have to open the inquiry up and continue it well into the next academic year.
Yeah.
David, did you ask what the enrollment process is for the children that are on the waiting list? I'm just looking at if they can accommodate 24, and that includes 4 students with special needs.
Yes,
Which they already have.
yes,
There's actually space for 7 more children right now.
yes.
Do they not do like a rolling admission kind of through the year as spots open to keep that at max capacity?
They did not do it this year, and I don't believe that they did it last year. Beyond that, I don't know. This is one of the areas that I think deserves more scrutiny.
And I noticed that just mornings is an option. And so how many children are enrolled for just the mornings of the 17?
I can continue that inquiry.
Yeah.
Okay, because I think this is a great start, so thank you. And Lance, just so you know, we received this as you did tonight, so the report, so.
Yeah, no, it's
So
very informative.
it's helpful to get it.
It's a start. It's merely a start. There are many, many more questions that I think administration and the board have to dig into.
Well, I guess typically a child care center would have a director. That's the common model. And it sounds like you're saying that our CTC teacher sort of serves as the primary contact for parents. Is that person sort of acting as a director of the center?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
In as much as we have one, yes.
Okay. Well, it must have, yeah. It was pretty clear cut when my son went there a long time ago. I don't know what the process was for staff. That never occurred to me, but it seems like there's been some changes. So.
Well, I think that the CTC teacher has done a really excellent job and really kept the program viable. But I think there are policy and procedure decisions to make, and I think that where and when to provide appropriate oversight is a question that administration has to look into and really have the board set the overarching goal. What are we trying to accomplish here, particularly with the state funding for career education, shifting toward high-skill, high-wage jobs. Teaching is viewed as that. Unfortunately, childcare, daycare does not have the same professional qualifications, nor does it have the same professional compensation. So we're at a point where we have to re-examine
Absolutely.
what we are attempting to do and what is the best way to provide these services. I think we have a lot of opportunity here. It's just that it has.
No, I think
Yeah.
there's real opportunity. It sounds like based upon how just how the wait list works and just on an initial
Yes.
look at it, you can see there's places for improvement, particularly since Littleton taxpayers are funding this center.
Yep.
So,
But, to go back to Greg's question about having 7 vacancies and where and when and how are those decisions made, I feel that it would have been better had I known about this earlier in the year, and perhaps we could have encouraged and required at least 3 or 4 additional people, children to be served.
Good.
Okay.
I guess, so what do you see as the next step, David? I mean, now we've had this initial report. I mean,
My conversation with Al today was to find somebody who can help him do the research necessary, first of all, into looking at the policies and procedures that we're operating under right now, then to look at other models of early childhood education, and make a recommendation to the board. I mean, ideally, Al and I have talked about this many, many times. If we had the space at Lakeway to have an early childhood program there, many, many schools have their programs in the schools. In fact, one of my former districts just brought its program from a satellite setting to the school setting. Another one of the schools I worked in actually bought portable classrooms, set them up specifically to provide early childhood education. Then they came up with a model that provided extended care at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day to supplement a half-day preschool program that then became, and it was for a fee, and the fees were competitive in the region, and it provided, it was self-sustaining economically. And so these are the kinds of options I think we need to look at. There's a lot of research that says money and resources put into early education continue to pay benefits to the recipients when those recipients are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. They've done a particular preschool study that was done, I believe, in Chicago, where increased earning opportunities, less antisocial behavior, crime, less addiction, less, many of the things that we're looking to accomplish. And the variable, they had a control group and a treatment group, and the variable that they followed was preschool program, high quality preschool program. So I think that, Lance, you've opened the door.
Yes,
but it's
thank
a
you for
good
that.
inquiry.
That's good. Public input, see why we like it?
Yeah. So,
Great.
well, I do want to thank you, Lance, for bringing this forward, and it's actually been on my mind for a while, too, so
Welcome, thank you.
you're welcome. Okay, the next item on the agenda was field hockey. Was
Yes.
Craig coming tonight?
No, I had a conversation with the athletic director. We agreed that we would postpone it to the next meeting.
Okay. All right. Under new business, there's a proposal for banner replacement.
Yes. I received a copy of an email, a proposal from the athletic director to replace the championship banners in the gymnasium with smaller ones. And he suggested that as a way of fundraising, that we auction off the banners that are up there. He's cited the fact that the space, due to the size of the banners and whether they're displayed landscape or, what do you call it, letters?
vertically or horizontally.
Yeah, vertical or that's the
That's the
term.
easier way out there on that one.
Technical on the statement.
Thank you very much.
Or we could do hot dog.
But, so I asked him to consult with the principal. Both agreed that this is a good way to, A, provide more space, and B, to engage some of our alumni in providing some financial support with reward. So I recommend that you approve the proposal that's before you to go ahead with auctioning the banners and approving the cost of approximately $1,500 to replace them, to supplement the money raised through fundraising.
And the $1,500, the athletic director is saying he already has it left over in his budget.
It's part of his budget.
No new funds out of this. We're
No.
not going to have to take it from someplace else.
No, we won't have to take it from someplace else. It will go against, we are judiciously approving expenditures as we review them, but this, we feel, will provide a uniform display in time for graduation.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion to the proposal? To accept the proposal?
Is the quality, would the quality be the same or better, or of the new banners? What are they made out of the same material?
I can't speak to the quality of them.
It says they're thinner and longer.
I think he means narrower.
Yeah, I'd be different. Current ones are 4 to 6.
Do you want to?
I'm open to it. Do you have any
I'm fine with it.
concerns about it?
Do you have any other concerns, Millie?
No,
Just wondering.
yeah, I just want to make sure I'll leave it up to them. They know what they're doing, I guess. We'll leave it up to the athletic department. I know something about change. Sometimes I swallow hard, so ignore me. I'll vote for it.
We definitely got to make room for that new banner.
That's right, yes.
Like more than one, too.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So, do you hear a motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve this proposal from the athletic director to, let's see here, to purchase new championship banners for the gymnasium. Funding coming from the auction of the old banners and the current budget, athletic budget.
All right, I'll second them.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
I do think, I'd be really interested to how they're going to auction and run that, auction off the old banners and how that's going to be held.
Well, I'll ask my daughter if she wants hers.
I know, well, that's what I'm thinking. I've had 3 graduate from here with banners.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
so,
just,
okay,
and I'm sure they're not the only ones, so.
yeah. I don't see any committee reports for tonight. Superintendent's report on Fitz vote, nutrition update.
Tom and I have been working together on meeting with the regional director of Fitzville, bringing to him our concerns about participation rates, the assumption of employees by Fitzvote going forward, drafting a contract, and marketing. And those discussions, I think, have been fruitful. The regional director spent 2 days in the district last week, meeting with personnel, looking at the menus, looking at the food service in general. He has indicated to me that he thinks that the employees, when he met with them, were favorably disposed toward at least understanding Fitzvote's offer of employment for the next school year. He discussed with the 4 employees who are eligible for benefits, what the benefits would mean, what they would cost, what they would cover. He discussed hours and differentiated staffing. One of our employees was concerned and has expressed concern in writing that in this employee's opinion, there has been more responsibility put on her, and that she would like to be recognized for that. And so they are having a conversation about her compensation for that. And we anticipate bringing a completed contract to you at the meeting, at our next meeting. It was a candid conversation. I felt that he heard what I had to say, and what I had to say was very pointed. They had promised a certain level of performance, and I felt we hadn't met it. Mm-hmm. And I saw the gap between how they configured their estimate on participation rates. And there's about a 20-point gap. And so I was concerned about that. I was concerned about his marketing strategies. He did share the results of the parent, student, and employee surveys. And he supplied the unvarnished copy, so we got to see what people really had to say. And he did share much of those data with the current food service employees and talked with them about a culture shift from our past practice to something that is of necessity more market-driven. He did have praise for the folks who work for us. This is not a deficit model. In other words, it isn't our employees' fault. It is a combination of things. We know that Fitzvote stepped in here on 3 days' notice. We've had a chance to sort of pilot it in year 1. Now I'm looking for the opportunity to make up some of that ground that they had talked about in their initial proposal. Now, Tom, the contract, once it's drafted, has to go for state approval. Is that correct?
Yes.
So in the next 2 weeks, we expect to have that back if I have to drive it to Concord myself.
I was going to say, is there a deadline for the state to get the contract?
You'll see it before it comes back from them, I'm sure.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Board?
Actually, not on that topic, but are we off that topic and moving on?
What?
I just have a question regarding something I just thought of as we moved on from the last discussion about the banners. Last meeting, we had frozen the budget.
Mm-hmm.
Does that impact the ability for them to move forward with the proposed idea for the banners?
No, what we have done is I talked with Joanne, and she is monitoring the budget at the middle school, high school.
Yeah.
And talking with Joanne, talking with Tom, looking at what has been encumbered in the athletic department budget, and that was that amount of money is there encumbered, so it does not adversely affect the bottom line.
Okay. And then do we have any type of update regarding the frozen budget and whether or not any changes that we've seen since our last meeting that are showing us whether or not we're headed in the direction we feared or headed in a better direction?
financials at the next meeting.
Next meeting, okay.
The month just ended on Thursday, so
Okay.
we haven't processed anything yet.
So we'll get those the first,
Next meeting.
Yeah.
first meeting in May, I
Okay.
think.
Oh, not until May, okay.
Right, no, next meeting.
Next meeting.
Next meeting, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
Second meeting of the month.
right. Okay.
And the other thing that I have is the date of our next meeting is scheduled for the 18th. That's the beginning of vacation. Shall we go ahead with that, or?
I will not be here.
Here we go.
But you can go ahead with
It's
it.
their trouble.
Well, it is, that's the one where the administration usually comes.
Yes.
Which, if they're on vacation.
Several of the administrators will not be here.
Yeah, so I'm open to still doing it, but I'm open to changing it if that's the preference.
I'm open to keeping it the same.
Keep it the same.
Thank you. I can see.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Want to keep it the same? Is that,
I think so.
okay, great.
What are we doing?
Unless we
Keep it
have
the
a
same.
drastic,
Baby.
something else. Do we hear a motion to go into non-public and bring in with us the teachers from Lakeway,
And the screening committee,
screening committee,
superintendent?
and the superintendent? Do you need anybody else?
Don't think so, do we need? All set.
Unless you want help with the long list. Unless you want help with the long list.
Oh, yeah, let's take the business manager. I think I want help with the long list.
You're good.
I can make a motion
Daylight.
to enter into non-public session under paragraph 2, section 3 of the RSA 91A:3 of the Right to Know Law for number 2, the hiring of any person as a public employee. Number 3, matters that would adversely affect the reputation of any person other than a member of the board. Anything else?
I think that's it.
And we'll be taking with us the superintendent, the business manager, and the Lakeway
Screening committee.
Lakeway principal screening committee members.
Second, we hear a second?
A second.
All right, roll call vote.
Cook.
Robbins?
Wiggett?
Nelson.
Okay. Thank you.